Hello YouTube world, and welcome to my quiet corner of the internet. So I'm going to share with you my portrait painting process. I'll tell you exactly how I painted this and the things you need to look out for when doing this type of study. First though, it's important for me that I'm transparent with you since we're all here to learn, so I need you to understand two things. The first is that this is a study. I feel like there isn't much transparency when it comes to studies, and I would like you to understand that this is where it starts. But do you know exactly why you choose a subject to study? This is really important because as much as you might think just copying a photo will get you somewhere, and it might, studying with a plan has 10 times better results. Point number 2 is that I'm very much at the start of my journey, just like I'm sure many of you are, and I have a lot to learn. I have plenty of things I've learned so far, however, that I've decided to document and share with you on this channel. So if you'd like to see more time-lapse videos, like this time-lapse and relax video, tutorials, walkthroughs and chatty discussion videos based on art and creativity, subscribe to stay up to date. I'll be posting weekly art videos every Thursday. Now on to the painting itself. I apologize for the video quality, but I will be walking you through my process and, more importantly, my thought process as I painted this. Future videos will be screen recorded differently, but if any of you know of a good iPad screen recording software, please do share. So, as I said previously, this is a study, and as I mentioned earlier, coming into a study with a purpose in mind is really important. So what was the purpose of this? Well, I wanted to practice my rendering. I have a very specific idea in mind of how I want my paintings to feel when you look at them, and this study was a practice of that. I'm using Procreate, but that really doesn't matter. Any digital painting software with the option to turn on pressure sensitivity on your brush will do. And I can vouch for Critter, which I was using before this. It's a free software and it's absolutely brilliant. It rivals Procreate and Photoshop any day. Now, the video is sped up, but what you can't see is how much I'm working to get her facial features perfectly aligned. A friend of mine had a dad who was a painter, and he told her that so long as you can make your art beautiful, people will love it. I've had this in mind ever since she told me. Of course, beauty is subjective, but I'm painting what I find beautiful, which is otherworldly, perfectly aligned features that look realistic but also slightly off, as though they're not part of this world. Texture that is painted so well, you know how it would feel if you could touch it. And colour that makes you feel like you're in a Disney movie. This is beauty for me, so that is what I'm trying to achieve here. You can see that I struggled a bit with her facial features. Faces are hard to get right because most people know what one should look like. But I use the lasso tool often to move features like her eyes or her nose so that things are lined up properly. This continues way into the painting. I wish it didn't, but something I need to work on is making my sketches look more like the finished piece that I plan to create. My animation background is a huge influence on how I sketch. I absolutely love distorting things, but that doesn't help me here. It doesn't help me achieve my end result. However, like I said in my previous video, I'm working to change most, if not all of that. So for the painting itself, I work in black and white first, then colour. This is my preference because I simply do not have the brain capability to think about light and form and colour all at once. As I mentioned, I'm still usually working out the construction of the face in this grayscale phase, so having to also think about things like the color of her skin mixed with the color of the light mixed with the color of the ambience is just too much for me. So form. I'm going to get more into form in another video, but essentially I'm thinking about how I want to model her face with light. The way the light falls on her face determines the planes of her face, and vice versa. So for example, if her face is wide and flat or long and narrow, etc., I tend to lean more towards wide in my paintings, although of course variety is the spice of life. So a little more on form. If you don't already know, the value, color in terms of its amount of lightness or darkness, that's value. So the value you decide to paint with has a huge impact on how your form will render and how it will be seen from an audience perspective. For example, a dark, almost black shade will appear to be receding away from the viewer, whereas something more in light with a bright or white value will appear to be facing the viewer. This is really important to understand and take note of, because the more you play with these values, the more dramatic and 3D-like your image can become. Now, when I paint in value, I always paint knowing that color will be laid on top of the image. Something you might not know about pure black and pure white is that they are subtractive colors. This means that the more white or black you add to a color, the more you actually take away from the color vibrancy. So you know those beautiful bright colors that you see in, again I'm going to reference to a Disney movie, those beautiful colors you see, those happen because those movies, the colors in them don't go from extreme dark to extreme light, and they probably only do this in scenes where they are trying to emphasize some form of dramatic storytelling. And it's the same idea with when you're painting images. You want to be very careful with how you choose your values. If you go for something in the middle range, middle grays, so nothing too white and nothing too black, middle gray will give you that bright color vibrancy if that is what you're going for. As I learned from Andrew Loomis, all bright and true colors live in the mid-range, so in the grays. If you can learn to paint your paintings in a range of grays varying from light grey to dark grey, you are winning, especially when it comes to adding color. Your colors will easily shine because they don't have to compete with strong blacks or whites. I hope this doesn't feel like it's getting too advanced or complicated. Let me know if you'd be interested in more in-depth and focused videos on the different skills it takes to make an entire painting. Unfortunately, the color didn't pick up very well in this video, but essentially what I am doing is going over each part of her face with a color on a separate layer set to the color blending mode. Her skin is on one layer, her lips are on another layer, her eyes, etc, etc. I choose color mode more often than others at the beginning stage, but sometimes I opt for overlay too. However, I find color works better for laying in washes of color. This is where I go in with a normal layer and paint over certain parts. What's important to note when painting over areas of the painting is to use your eyedropper tool to select the color that you are going to paint. Don't just go in with a random color from the color picker. That will throw you off completely. Once you have the color picked up on your brush, you can change the hue or color and saturation, but be sure to keep the value the same. I hope that makes sense, but let me know if you'd like more videos on color. So this is all I could fit into a 10-minute video, but I have loads of content planned around art and creativity, as I plan to document my journey here on YouTube into becoming the artist I always wanted to be. If you're on your journey too and are looking for some inspiration or another soul to work alongside, join the conversation. Subscribe for updates, share your work in the comments, I would love to see it. Let us know your art goals, and also tell me, What do you think is beautiful? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.